Welcome to Move Forward Bravely. We are producing some positive stories. Thank you for listening. I am your supporter. Move forward bravely. Let us be silent in the stories and the music together and face the future bravely. Tonight, I'll tell you a story about a journalist uncovering the mystery of the ghost station. On an autumn night, the cold wind mixed with fallen leaves swirled around the abandoned station. Dusk gradually faded, and darkness enveloped the entire town like an invisible net. Journalist Li Ming stood by the tracks of the station, filled with confusion and anticipation. Li Ming was a seasoned journalist with a deep interest in all kinds of mysterious events. However, this investigation made him unusually uneasy. According to rumors, a mysterious train appears at this abandoned station at the same time every year, and each time, it takes away one person. Over the past decade, 10 people have disappeared here with no clues to date. Will there really be a train? Li Ming muttered to himself, pulling his coat tighter around him. His gaze fell on the station's dilapidated clock tower, where the clock had long stopped, its hands forever frozen at midnight. The sight sent a shiver down his spine. Li Ming had interviewed several elderly residents in town, but their descriptions varied. Some said they had seen a black steam train. Others claimed it was a modern silver train. Some even insisted it was a ghost train that only appeared at midnight, that could be seen only from a specific angle. As he was lost in thought, he heard a rustling sound from the bushes behind him. Li Ming turned sharply, but saw nothing. The surrounding silence felt like a silent threat, making him uneasy. "Who's there?" Li Ming called out loudly, his voice echoing in the empty station. He pulled out his phone and turned on the flashlight, searching the area with its weak beam. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was an old woman, her face lined with wrinkles. She wore a tattered black cloak, and her eyes held an indescribable sadness. "You're here to find the train, aren't you?" The old woman's raspy voice was particularly jarring in the silent night. Li Ming nodded, filled with questions. "What do you know? Please tell me." The old woman sighed softly and slowly approached Li Ming. "Every year on this day, the train returns and takes someone away. You want the truth, then be prepared to pay the price. I'm not afraid of the price. I just want to know the truth," Li Ming said firmly. The old woman looked at him meaningfully and began to speak slowly. 100 years ago, a tragedy happened here. Back then, there was a train full of town residents, but they never reached their destination. "What happened?" Li Ming pressed. "The train derailed, and everyone died," the old woman said, her voice seeming to come from a distant past, tinged with sorrow and melancholy. "But some say the spirits never rested. They come back every year, looking for replacements." A chill ran through Li Ming. He stared at the old woman, trying to glean more from her expression. "Why are you here?" "I am a survivor of a tragedy," the old woman whispered, tears glistening in her eyes. "I've been waiting for someone to uncover this mystery and bring peace to the spirits." Li Ming was silent for a moment, feeling the heavy sense of responsibility on his shoulders. He knew there was no turning back now. He had to face this head on. "Tell me what I need to do," he said resolutely. The old woman pointed to the distant clock tower, her voice low and solemn. "At midnight, stand there, and you will see the train. Remember, no matter what happens, do not get on the train." Li Ming nodded, a surge of determination rising within him. He knew that this night was destined to be anything but peaceful. And this was just the beginning of the story. The real mystery was only starting to unfold. Li Ming spent the entire night at the station, despite following the old woman's instructions to stand by the clock tower at midnight. No mysterious train appeared. This left him both disappointed and puzzled, but he did not give up. He decided to continue his investigation and search for more clues. Early the next morning, Li Ming returned to town. He sat down in the smoke half, ordered a strong coffee, and reviewed his notebook. After jotting down his experiences from the previous night and the old woman's words, he recalled some of the town's rumors. One name appeared frequented Wang. According to the rumors, he was the first person to witness the mysterious train. Li Ming sought out an elder familiar with the town's affairs and learned old Wang's address. After some effort, he finally stood in front of old Wang's house. It was a dilapidated hut on the outskirts of town, surrounded by overgrown weeds, giving it a particularly desolate appearance. Li Ming knocked on the door, and after a moment, an elderly man with gray hair opened it. Old Wang's face was aged, but his eyes still held a sharp, wise glint. He frowned slightly upon seeing Li Ming. "You're here to ask about the train, aren't you?" Old Wang's voice was hoarse and deep, as if he had seen through everything. Li Ming nodded and introduced himself politely. "I'm journalist Li Ming. I heard you were the first to witness that mysterious train. I'd like to hear your story." Old Wang sighed and gestured for Li Ming to come in. The interior of the house was simple but clean and tidy. After they sat down, Old Wang was silent for a moment, seemingly recalling past events. "That was many years ago." Old Wang began slowly, his voice tinged with sadness. "That night, my friends and I were playing near the station. The station had been abandoned for years, and no one paid attention to what happened there." "What did you see?" Li Ming asked eagerly. "We saw that train." Old Wang's voice trembled slightly. A black steam train, slowly emerging from the darkness at the end of the tracks. There were no lights on the train, only two red lights at the front, eerily glowing in the dark. "What did you do then?" Li Ming pressed on. "We were terrified. Some said it was a ghost train and urged us to leave quickly. But I was drawn by some strange force, unable to move, just staring at the train as it slowly came to a stop in front of us." Old Wang paused, a flicker of fear and regret crossing his face. "Then, the train doors opened. I saw shadows inside the car, each at people, but spirits. Those shadows reached out as if trying to grab me." "What happened next?" Li Ming held his breath, eyes fixed on Old Wang. At that moment, one of my friends shouted and pulled me back. Old Wang took a deep breath, his voice low but firm. The train quickly disappeared, as it had never been there. Li Ming was silent for a moment, his mind swirling with questions. "What happened after that? Did others see the train?" "Yes," Old Wang nodded. "Every year, at the same time, someone sees that train, and then they vanish without a trace. Why didn't you report this to the authorities or tell more people?" Li Ming asked, puzzled. "We did report it, but the police found no evidence. Eventually, we were too scared to talk about it because mentioning it only brought more fear." Old Wang gave a bitter smile. "But every year, there are always some who don't believe in such things, and they go there, never to return." Hearing this, Li Ming felt even more determined to uncover the mystery. He thanked Old Wang and left the house. As he was leaving, Old Wang called out to him, "Young man, no matter what you discover, don't easily trust your eyes. That train is more than just a simple mystery. It hides deeper darkness." Li Ming nodded thoughtfully. He knew that his investigation was just beginning, and that what lay ahead could be more dangerous and unpredictable than he had imagined. With these thoughts in mind, Li Ming returned to town, ready to plan his next steps. He knew that the key to solving this mystery might lie behind those who had disappeared. To find the answers, he needed to delve deeper into the history of the abandoned station. With Old Wang's words and his own questions in mind, Li Ming decided to delve deeper into the history of the abandoned station. He believed that only by understanding the station's past could he find the key to unraveling the mystery of the phantom train. Li Ming went to the town's library, which housed numerous historical records about the town. The library was filled with the faint aroma of old books, and sunlight streamed through the windows, casting a golden hue on the shelves. Li Ming browsed through the rows of shelves, searching for information about the station, and finally found an old file in an inconspicuous corner. The file was covered in dust, and its cover had yellowed with age, clearly untouched for many years. Li Ming carefully opened it and discovered that it contained detailed records of the station's construction. operation, and eventual abandonment. The station was built at the end of the 19th century, during a period of rapid development for the town. The opening of the railway brought prosperity to the town, making the station a vital transportation hub. Daily, numerous passengers ended to pass through, spurring the growth of commerce around the station. A file included photographs from that era, showing this station in all its former grandeur. However, over time, changes in transportation and the town's economic decline led to the station becoming increasingly deserted. Eventually, in the mid-20th century, the station was forced to close due to poor management. The closure dealt a heavy blow to the town, causing many to lose their jobs and leading to the decline of surrounding businesses. A significant event mentioned in the file was a severe accident that occurred just before the station's closure. According to the records, the accident happened on a winter night in 1914 when a train packed with passengers derailed shortly. The accident resulted in dozens of deaths, leaving many families devastated. The accident brought immense sorrow to the town, but what was more peculiar was the lack of detailed records about its cause. The investigation report vaguely cited technical failure, without any specific details. Stranger still, the train involved in the accident seemed never to have been found, as if it had never existed. The final pages of the file contained accounts of supernatural occurrences related to the station. Local residents began to claim that a mysterious train appeared at the same time each year after the station's closure. Some reported hearing the train's whistle, others seeing shadows inside the carriages, and some even feeling the chilling presence of spirits. These stories gradually became a taboo topic in the town, with most preferring not to discuss the eerie details. Yet, these tales acted as an invisible force, attracting curious individuals like Li Ming to pursue the truth. At the end of the file, Li Ming discovered a letter written by an engineer who had participated in the accident investigation, addressed to his wife. The letter, which seemed never to have been sent, mentioned the possibility of a conspiracy behind the accident. The engineer noted that he had uncovered unknown clues and suspected that the accident was not due to mere technical failure. However, he did not provide specifics, only stating that he had been threatened and could not continue the investigation. Mary, if you are reading this letter, it means I am unable to continue the investigation. Someone does not want the truth to be revealed, and I cannot risk putting you and the children in danger. But believe me, this was no simple accident. The disappearance of the train and the tales of the spirits conceal a deeper secret. Li Ming was shaken as he finished reading the letter. He realized that the accident might be far more complex and dangerous than he had imagined. The threats mentioned in the letter filled him with unease, but also ignited a strong curiosity and determination. Armed with these new clues, Li Ming decided to continue his in-depth investigation. He knew he had to find more of those who were knowledgeable about the incident to uncover the conspiracy and the truth behind the accident. His next step was to contact any surviving witnesses or their descendants, hoping to obtain more valuable information from them. Leaving the library, Li Ming was filled with questions and anticipation. He knew that the road ahead was fraught with unknowns and dangers, but there was no turning back. Only by pressing forward could he find the truth behind the mysterious train and solve the riddle that had haunted the town for years. After leaving the library, Li Ming felt a mix of anticipation and anxiety about his ongoing investigation. He knew that to uncover the truth behind the mysterious train, he needed to find more clues. Thus, he decided to visit some of the town's elderly residents, hoping to learn more about the stories of the mysterious passengers. Li Ming first visited Granny Shine, the town's oldest resident. According to rumors, she had seen some mysterious passengers on the night of the accident. Granny Shang's home was located in a small grove on the outskirts of the town, surrounded by various flowers and plants. Standing in stark contrast, when Li Ming knocked on her door, he was greeted by a sprightly old woman. She warmly invited Li Ming in and offered him tea and snacks. "You are too kind," Li Ming said with a smile. "I'm here to learn about the mysterious train and its passengers. I heard that you saw them that night." Granny Jean's eyes became serious instantly. She put down her teacup and sighed. "That was many years ago, but I remember it clearly. That night, I saw some people near the station. They were wearing strange clothes, unlike anything from our time." "Can you describe them in detail?" Li Ming asked eagerly. Granny Jean nodded and began to recall. They were dressed in old-fashioned suits and long dresses, like people from old photographs. What was even stranger was their expressions. They looked vacant, their eyes empty, as if they had no souls. As Granny Jean continued her description, there was a knock at the door. Granny Jean got up to open it, and a young woman walked in. She introduced herself, and Liu, Granny Jean's granddaughter. "I heard you are investigating the train incident. Maybe I can help." Li Ming was pleasantly surprised by this unexpected assistance and invited Liu to join them. Liu took out an old diary from her bag and handed it to Li Ming. "This is my grandfather's diary. He was one of the station workers at the time. He recorded everything that happened that night in detail," Liu explained. Li Ming opened the diary, finding clear accounts of that fateful night. December 24, 1914 to 9. Something incredibly strange happened at the station. I saw a train I had never seen before slowly pull into the station. The passengers on the train were dressed oddly and had no expressions on their faces. I tried to talk to them, but it was as if they couldn't hear me. Even more bizarre, when I got closer, their bodies became translucent, as if they might disappear at any moment. He may continue to read, finding detailed descriptions of the passengers. Of the passengers, a woman holding a crying child, yet she showed him mounted with a pocket watch, continuously checking the time with a stiff expression. An elderly woman sitting in the corner, holding an old photograph, looking sad. These descriptions set chills down Li Ming's spine. He looked up at Liu. "Did your grandfather continue to investigate this matter?" Liu shook her head no. In his last diary entry, he wrote that he felt a mysterious force was preventing him from investigating further. After that, he never mentioned it again, and the diary was locked away until I recently discovered it. After leaving Granny Jean's house, Li Ming headed to the town's police station, hoping to get more information from the current police chief. The chief, Wang Jiangwu, a middle-aged man, warmly welcomed Li Ming's visit. "Actually, I've always been interested in the story of that train," Chief Wang said. "My father mentioned it when I was a child. He was one of the police officers investigating the accident at the time." Chief Wang led Li Ming to the archive room and retrieved an old report from a dusty file box. The report, left by his father, detailed the investigation of the incident. The report mentions that those mysterious passengers didn't seem like ordinary people. Their identities couldn't be traced, as if they never existed, Chief Wang said, flipping through the report. "What's even stranger is that many witnesses gradually disappeared, cutting off many leads." Li Ming left the police station with the precious report in hand. Despite the scattered clues, he felt the immense mystery and conspiracy hidden behind the phantom train. He decided to continue tracing the mysterious passengers and look for more information about them. Back at his place, Li Ming organized his notes and materials, filled with new questions and determination. His next step was to visit the site of the accident, hoping to find more clues there. Li Ming knew that the path ahead would be full of dangers and challenges, but he was ready. Whatever the cost, he would uncover this mystery. As night fell, Li Ming sat at his desk, staring at his notes and materials. In his heart, he silently vowed, no matter how many unknown dangers lay ahead, I will uncover the truth behind this ghost train and bring peace to those lost souls. As night deepened, Li Ming organized the materials in his hands and decided to return to the abandoned train station. He felt that only by personally experiencing the mysterious train could he truly uncover the mystery behind it. To do this, he needed to learn more about the taboos on the train. Before heading to the station, Li Ming decided to visit Lao Zu, a former station manager. He had heard that Lao Zu used to be in charge of the station and had extensive knowledge about the train's taboos. Lao Zu House was located on the outskirts of the town. Li Ming knocked on the door and was greeted by a spirited old man. Wisdom and mystery in Lao Zu eyes. Upon hearing Li Ming's intention, he invited him in for a detailed discussion. "You must be careful, that train is not an ordinary train," Lao Zu said bluntly. "It carries many souls, and anyone who boards it can never return. Can you tell me more about these taboos?" Li Ming asked eagerly. Lao Zu nodded, his expression serious, as he began to explain. "First, do not look at your watch or phone inside the train car. Time there is unstable. If you try to check it, you will get lost in the whirlpool of time. Second, do not casually touch the passengers. They may look like ordinary people, but they are actually spirits. If you touch them, their cold aura will erode you, gradually draining your life force. Third, and most importantly, do not eat or drink anything on the train. These items may appear normal, but they are actually food for the spirits. Once you consume them, you will be trapped on the train forever, unable to escape." After listening to Lao Zu's explanation, Li Ming became even more cautious. He realized that he was facing not only a mysterious train, but also unknown forces on board. Seeing Li Ming's determined expression, Lao Zu continued, "There's also a rumor that this train takes one person every year to replace the restless spirit. So, if you really see the train, do not try to board it." Li Ming nodded, committing these taboos to memory. He understood that this was not only for his safety but also crucial for uncovering the truth. At midnight, Li Ming returned to the abandoned station. This time, he brought enough equipment, including a recorder, the camera, and a strong flashlight. He stood under the clock tower, feeling the silence and chill around him. Li Ming took a deep breath, trying to stay calm as per Lao Zu instructions. He turned on the camera, pointing it at the tracks, and patiently waited for midnight. As the minutes ticked by, the air around him seemed to grow colder. When the clock struck midnight, Li Ming suddenly felt a slight tremor in the ground, and a low whistle sounded in the distance. He gripped his flashlight tightly, staring straight ahead. In the darkness, a blurry light gradually became clearer. The mysterious train finally appeared. The train slowly came to a stop at the station, and the doors opened automatically, releasing the cold air. Li Ming suppressed his inner fear. He cautiously approached the train, recording everything with his camera. Through the windows, he saw the train car full of passengers. They were dressed in various styles, some looking like they were from decades ago, others appearing modern, but without exception, their expressions were empty and stiff. Suddenly, a woman in an old-fashioned dress turned her head and looked directly at Li Ming. Her eyes were filled with sorrow and despair. Silently pleading for help, Li Ming's heart trembled, and he forced himself to look away, remembering Lao's warning not to eat the passengers. At that moment, Li Ming noticed a little girl in the corner of the car, softly crying while clutching a worn-out teddy bear. Li Ming hesitated, feeling conflicted. He knew she'd not interact with the passengers, but the girl's cries aroused his sympathy. Li Ming picked up the recorder and asked her softly, "What's your name?" The girl seemed to hear him and looked up at him with tear-filled eyes but did not answer. Li Ming suddenly realized that these passengers might not be actual spirits but rather souls trapped on the train. He tried to ask more questions, but the girl began to fade as if she might disappear at any moment. Alarmed, Li Ming quickly stepped back, not daring to get any closer. As Li Ming pondered how to proceed with his investigation, a sharp whistle suddenly sounded from within the car. The doors began to close slowly, and the train seemed ready to move on. Knowing he could not stay any longer, Li Ming quickly packed up his equipment and hurriedly left the station. On his way back, Li Ming felt a complex mix of emotions. He had not only witnessed the existence of the mysterious train, but also discovered the taboos. and the trapped souls on board. He understood that there was a deeper secret hidden behind all this, one he must continue to pursue. Back at his place, Li Ming sorted through all his recordings. He decided to keep looking for more witnesses and informants, especially the families and friends of the missing people. He believed that by persistently searching, one day he would uncover the truth behind this ghostly train. Late at night, Li Ming sat at his desk, contemplating his next steps. He knew the road ahead was full of unknowns and dangers, but there was no turning back. Only by continuing his quest could he find the truth behind the mysterious train and solve the mystery that had plagued the town for years. Li Ming sat under the dim glow of a desk lamp. Before him a detailed dossier that chronicled every detail of the tragedy from 100 years ago. This dossier, borrowed from a retired railway engineer after much inquiry, was exceedingly thorough and revealed some truths about the tragic event. According to the records, on a winter night in 1914, a train loaded with passengers was traveling from the capital to the south. It derailed while passing through this small town. The accident occurred at midnight, when most of the passengers were asleep. The sudden impact threw the entire train car into chaos. The investigation report concluded that the accident was caused by a technical failure, but the dossier revealed some undisclosed details. The railway engine, they discovered during the investigation that the key component causing the derailment did not fail due to aging or damage, but showed signs of deliberate sabotage. Even more bizarre was the mysterious disappearance of the train's locomotive after the accident, never to be found again. As Li Ming continued to peruse the dossier, he found the newspaper clippings and photographs from that time. The clippings mentioned that the authorities quickly sealed off the site and issued a brief statement attributing the accident to an unfortunate incident. However, insiders disclosed that many details of the scene were deliberately concealed, and witnesses were instructed to remain silent. A journalist noted in his own journal when I arrived at the scene, "I saw more than just a simple derailment. There was an indescribable chill in the air around the carriages, and many passengers' bodies were contorted as if they had experienced extreme fear and pain." A chill crept over Li Ming as he realized that a deeper conspiracy might be hidden behind the accident. Another record in the dossier noted that a group of mysterious passengers of unknown identity was on the train that day. These passengers kept a low profile when boarding and did not attract much attention, but their behavior was very peculiar. A survivor mentioned in an interview those people wore very strange clothes and carried little luggage. They stayed, mostly, in their own carriage and did not interact with other passengers. After the accident, I saw one of them come out of the carriage, looking pale and with vacant eyes, like a dead person. There was also a letter in the dossier, written by an engineer involved in the investigation to his superior. The letter described his suspicions about the cause of the accident and his concerns about certain unknown forces. I found during my investigation that the key component causing the accident was not naturally damaged, but deliberately sabotaged. What's even stranger is that at the accident site, I felt an unexplainable chill, as if countless souls were trying to communicate. I strongly suspect there is an unknown conspiracy behind this accident, possibly involving some supernatural force. Shortly after sending his report, the engineer mysteriously disappeared, and the case remains unsolved to this day. Li Ming further discovered that the accident not only claimed many passengers, but also triggered a series of disappearances. Many people related to the accident, whether survivors, rescuers, or investigators, disappeared one after another in the following years, as if swallowed by some mysterious force. A list in the dossier showed that most of the missing individuals exhibited extreme fear and anxiety before their disappearance. Their families and friends mentioned in interviews that the missing persons often talked about seeing hallucinations, hearing strange noises, and some even claimed to have seen the train and its ghostly passengers in their dreams. On the last page of the dossier, Li Ming found an old map marking the exact location of the accident. He decided to personally visit the accident site hoping to find more undiscovered clues. Li Ming knew this investigation would be very dangerous, but he had no way back. He had to uncover the truth behind the tragedy from a century ago and seek justice for the innocent souls. As night fell, Li Ming set out with all his materials toward the accident site, an abandoned forest area, almost devoid of human presence. Guided by the map, he found the old railway remains, with remnants of the train carriages still visible, silently telling the tale of the tragic event from 100 years ago. In that desolate land, Li Ming felt an indescribable oppression and coldness. He carefully explored the area, hoping to find more clues. Suddenly, he discovered strange symbols near a rail track covered by weeds, seemingly ancient spells. Li Ming recorded these symbols, planning to research them later. He believed these symbols might be the key to unlocking the mystery. Returning to the town with the symbols and materials from the site, Li Ming decided to consult an expert in ancient languages and symbology. He believed, as the investigation progressed, he was getting closer to the truth. However, Li Ming also realized that he was entering an increasingly dangerous realm. The forces hidden in the dark seemed unwilling to let the truth come to light. He had to be extremely cautious to avoid becoming the next person to disappear. Late at night, Li Ming sat at his desk, poring over the materials. He knew the path ahead was full of unknowns and dangers, but there was no turning back. Only by continuing his pursuit could he find the truth behind the mysterious train and solve the mystery that had troubled the town for years. Li Ming decided to contact some historians and symbologists in the town, hoping they could help decipher the symbols found at the accident site. He also planned to continue seeking out more survivors and informants from the accident to gather more valuable information. Li Ming knew this investigation would be a prolonged battle, but he was prepared for it, no matter the cost. He was determined to unravel the mystery that had plagued the town for years. With firm determination and unyielding will, Li Ming faced each new challenge and moved toward a path of truth. Ever since embarking on the journey to uncover the truth behind the ghostly train, Li Ming had felt an invisible pressure. However, he never imagined that this investigation would put his life in danger. As he delved deeper into the investigation, he not only uncovered the tragedy from a century ago but also began to touch upon some unknown secretive forces. The ancient symbols Li Ming discovered at the accident site made him realize that the secret behind the ghostly train might be related to some ancient curse or ritual. In order to further interpret these symbols, he contacted Professor Zhang, a historian, and Drive, Liu, an expert in symbology, agreeing to meet at Professor Zhang's home. As night fell, Li Ming arrived at Professor Zhang's house on time with his materials. Professor Zhang and Drive, Liu were already waiting, showing great interest in the symbols Li Ming brought. These symbols are indeed very ancient, and may be related to some ritual. Drive, Liu carefully examined the symbols, explaining, however, to fully interpret them, we need more information and time. Just as they were focused on interpreting the symbols, there was a sudden urgent knocking at the door. Professor Zhang went to open it, only to find no one outside. As he prepared to close the door, a cold gust of wind rushed into the room, extinguishing the candles. The room plunged into darkness, and Li Ming felt a sense of foreboding. As he prepared to light his flashlight, the windows of the room suddenly shattered, and a dark figure swiftly darted toward Li Ming with a strong chill. Li Ming instinctively dodged, but the shadow grazed his shoulder, sending a piercing chill through his body. He fell to the ground, his flashlight rolling aside, the beam flickering uncertainly in the darkness. Professor Zh and Drive, you were also startled by the sudden attack, trying to light the lamps, but found that all the lights in the room failed to work. Enduring the pain in his shoulder, Li Ming struggled to get up, quickly finding his flashlight and shining it around. In the dim light, he saw the dark figure slowly approaching. The form of the shadow was blurry, as if composed of countless resentful spirits, Li Ming realized that he was not just facing an ordinary attacker, but some kind of supernatural entity. Gritting his teeth, Li Ming quickly pondered his options. He remembered the taboos Old Zhu had mentioned, and decided to try using them to counter the shadow. He shouted, "We mean no harm, we just want to unravel the mystery from 100 years ago. Please spare us." The footsteps of the shadow seemed to pause for a moment, but quickly resumed. Li Ming realized that words alone couldn't stop it to advance. Suddenly, he remembered he had a bottle of holy water in his bag, obtained from the town's church. Li Ming quickly took out the bottle from his bag, uncorked it, and sprinkled the holy water towards the shadow. As the holy water splashed, the shadow emitted a piercing scream, its form becoming transparent and finally disappearing into the air. Professor Zhang and Drive. He finally breathed a sigh of relief, and the lights in the room came back on. The three of them smiled at each other, still shaking, as they sat back at the table. Just when they thought the crisis was over, they heard sirens outside. A police car rushed over, and several policemen stormed into the house. Leading them was Wang Diangwu, the chief of police in town, who looked at Li Ming and his companions with a serious expression. "We received a report of an attack here, and came immediately. Are you all okay?" Chief Wang asked. Li Ming nodded, briefly recounting what had just happened. After hearing it, Chief Wang's expression became even more solemn. "It seems your investigation has touched on some secrets that certain people do not want to be uncovered." Chief Wang decided to leave the policemen at Professor Zhang's house to ensure their safety. At the same time, he advised Li Ming to temporarily halt the investigation and wait for more protection measures to be put in place. But Li Ming knew in his heart that he could no longer stop. Only by pressing forward could he completely unravel this mystery. After a brief rest, Li Ming and his companions decided to further uncover the truth behind the tragedy from 100 years ago. With the help of Chief Wang, they obtained some new clues, including a list of eyewitnesses to the accident and some unpublished evidence. Based on the new clues, Li Ming discovered that the accident from a century ago was not just a civil technical failure, but more like a meticulously planned conspiracy. And behind this conspiracy, there might be even more complex and dangerous forces at work. In his investigation, Li Ming found some forgotten evidence, yellowed photographs showing several passengers in strange attire, one of whom was among the mysterious passengers from the accident. They stood in front of the train station, expressionless, with eyes full of endless sadness. On the back of the photo was written a line, December 2040, the end of fate. Li Ming felt a chill, realizing that these passengers might have already foreseen their fate. Late at night, Li Ming sat at his desk, staring at the yellowed photo. He knew he had delved deep into the heart of this conspiracy, and had awaited more dangerous and complex challenges. Taking a deep breath, he firmly said to himself, "No matter how dangerous the path ahead is, I will not retreat. I will uncover the truth behind this ghostly train and seek justice for those innocent souls." With firm determination and unyielding will, Li Ming continued on the path to the truth. Although the road ahead was full of unknowns and dangers, he knew that only by bravely facing them could he find the answers. To solve a mystery that had plagued the town for years, Li Ming decided to continue his investigation under police protection. He knew that more evidence was needed to unravel a mystery behind the century-old tragedy, especially the souls of those who had gone missing. They might hold the key to revealing the truth. Through introductions from the townspeople, Li Ming found a mysterious psychic named Xiaoling, who claimed to be able to communicate with the souls of the missing. With a mixture of skepticism and anticipation, Li Ming went to Xiaoling's home. Xiaoling, an elderly woman, decorated her room with an air of mystery, with walls adorned with various talismans and ancient paintings. Xiaoling looked at Li Ming and smiled faintly. "I know who you are and why you've come to me. It's about the ghost train," she said. Li Ming nodded and explained the situation and his questions. After listening, Xiaoling closed her eyes and murmured an incantation. The temperature in the room suddenly dropped, and a strange atmosphere filled the air. Xiaoling's incantation continued for several minutes, and suddenly, there was a slight vibration in the room. Li Ming saw several vague figures gradually appear in the air, their faces contorted in pain. Xiaoling opened her eyes, her voice low. These are the missing souls from that tragedy. Their spirits are trapped on the ghost train, unable to rest. One of the spirits spoke up. My name is Wan Zeking. I was a passenger on that train. We were taken to a place from which there was no escape. Every year, someone new is chosen to replace our trapped souls. Li Ming asked, why were you all trapped on that train? What conspiracy lies behind it? Wan Zikang's spirit continued. The train was originally owned by a wealthy businessman. He conducted an ancient ritual on board in an attempt to attain immortality. However, the ritual failed, turning the entire train into a prison for the undead. Every year, the train appears at the same time, taking away a new soul to sustain the ritual's power. Another spirit, the young woman named Liu Lihua, said, we cannot rest. We cannot rest. We can only endlessly wander on the ghost train. The only way to save us is to find the source of that ritual and destroy it. Xiaoling added, the source of the ritual should be in the belongings of a wealthy businessman. Find it, destroy it, and these souls can be completely liberated. Li Ming felt the weight on his shoulders increase. He understood that this was not only about unraveling a historical mystery, but also about the responsibility of rescuing countless trapped souls. He thanked Xiaoling and expressed his determination to complete this task with all his might. Based on the descriptions from the spirits, Li Ming began to investigate the background and belongings of the businessman. He discovered that the businessman's surname was Shen, a very mysterious figure who was rumored to be superstitious and practiced various mystical beliefs in an attempt to attain immortality. After researching a considerable amount of historical data, Li Ming finally found Gu Shen. The businessman had an ancient mansion outside the town where he conducted his rituals. Although the mansion was long abandoned, it was said to still contain many mysterious artifacts. Equipped and determined, Li Ming decided to venture alone to the ancient mansion. He knew that this mission was filled with unknown dangers, but he proceeded fearlessly. The mansion was located in a dense forest outside the town, weathered and dilapidated over the years. Li Ming traversed through overgrown paths and finally arrived at the mansion's gate. The iron lock on the gate had rusted, and with a gentle push it opened. Entering the mansion, Li Ming felt a sinister atmosphere pervading the air. He switched on his flashlight and carefully searched every room. Finally, he discovered a hidden chamber in the mansion's basement. The walls of the chamber were adorned with various mystical symbols and patterns, with a stone table in the center upon which lay a black box. Li Ming cautiously opened the box to find an ancient manuscript detailing Shen's ritual process and the incantations he used. Taking the manuscript baton, Li Ming handed it over to Xiaoling and Drive, you for interpretation. After several days of study, they finally found a way to rescue the souls. They needed to return to the scene of the accident at midnight and perform a reverse ritual on the railway tracks to break the original curse. However, this process was extremely dangerous, as once the reverse ritual began, the ghost train and the trapped souls would desperately try to stop it. Li Ming understood that this was a risky endeavor, but he was determined. At midnight, Li Ming and Xiaoling, armed with the necessary ritual tools, arrived at the abandoned station. As the clock struck, the ghost train reappeared, and the souls inside the carriages wailed mournfully. Xiaoling began chanting the reverse ritual incantations, while Li Ming placed talismans and ritual items on the railway tracks. Suddenly, a powerful chill swept over them, and countless undead spirits in the darkness rushed towards them, trying to halt the ritual. Li Ming and Xiaoling fought valiantly, their chants growing more urgent. At the last moment, Li Ming exerted all his strength to place the final talisman in the center of the tracks. With a dazzling flash of light, the spirits let out a desperate scream, gradually dissipating into the air. As the light faded, so did the ghost train. Li Ming and Xiaoling stood in the empty station, surrounded by silence. They knew that the curse had been lifted, and the trapped souls had finally found peace. Li Ming took a deep breath, feeling an unprecedented sense of relief. He knew that although the investigation had been fraught with danger and challenges, the ultimate outcome filled him with immense satisfaction. He looked at Xiaoling, and the two exchanged a silent smile, silently praying for the departed souls. Li Ming compiled the investigation results into a report and announced the truth of the entire incident to the townspeople and the police. The townsfolk finally learned the secret of the ghost train and the true cause of the tragedy 100 years ago. Although he had faced numerous dangers, Li Ming ultimately succeeded in unraveling the mystery that had plagued the town for many years. Not only did he uncover the truth of history, but he also rescued countless trapped souls. With the calming of the incident, the town returned to its former tranquility. Li Ming knew that this investigation was not just a challenge in his career, but also a significant test of his courage and wisdom. With a sense of accomplishment and boundless anticipation for the future, he continued forward, ready to embrace new challenges. With Xiaoling's help, Li Ming and his small team successfully performed a reverse ritual, rescuing many trapped souls. However, they soon realized that it was not over yet. With the disappearance of the ghost train, new threats emerged. The powerful spirits, unable to fight peace due to extreme resentment and pain, still lingered in the darkness. Xiaoling explained, although most souls have been freed, there are still some exceptionally powerful spirits. They remain dangerous, filled with boundless resentment, and they won't easily let us go. Li Ming and Xiaoling decided they must find the source of these powerful spirits. Otherwise, the town would never truly be at peace. They faced this new challenge. Li Ming and Xiaoling conducted another soul-summoning ritual at Professor Zong's house. This time, they hoped to directly communicate with these powerful spirits, understanding the source of their resentment and how to release them. As the ritual began, the room's temperature dropped rapidly, and a chilling wind filled the air. Xiaoling's chants summoned several vague figures, their faces more contorted and filled with endless resentment than before. One particularly powerful spirit, its face almost unrecognizable as he twisted, spoke. "I am Shen Fu, the eldest son of Shen, the businessman. My family and I perished in that accident. My father, driven by his greed and desires, led us to our deaths." Shen Fu's voice dripped with hatred as he continued. "After my father's ritual failed, he was consumed by the curse's power and became part of the ghost train. My family and I are trapped on the train, unable to escape forever." Xiaoling asked, "What do you need to find peace?" Shen Fu's spirit replied, "Only by finding my father's remains and performing a ritual at a specific location can we find release." Li Ming understood that to accomplish this task, they needed to find Shen, the businessman's remains. However, according to records, Shen's body had disappeared without a trace after the accident. Li Ming decided to return to the accident scene for further investigation. He contacted Old Zhu with several police officers, and they went together to the desolate forest. Armed with advanced detection equipment, they hoped to find any remaining clues. Under the cover of night, Li Ming and his team entered the forest. Despite the eerie atmosphere, they pressed forward fearlessly. Suddenly, the detection equipment emitted an urgent alarm. Li Ming quickly checked it and found some sort of metal reaction underground. They cautiously dug and soon discovered a decaying coffin containing Shen's remains. Li Ming and Xiaoling decided to perform the ritual immediately. Following Shen Fu's spirit guidance, they moved the body to a specific location clearing surrounded by ancient trees. Seemingly isolated from the outside world, Xiaoling set up the altar, lit incense candles, and began chanting ancient spells. As the incantations echoed, a mysterious power filled the air, shaking the entire space. Midway through the ritual, the sky suddenly turned pitch black, and a chilling wind arose. Li Ming saw countless spirits converging from all directions, their faces twisted with resentment. Shan Fu's spirit appeared before the altar, his eyes carrying a mix of hope and unease. "Quick! Keep chanting," Xiaoling shouted. Her voice was firm and powerful, contrasting sharply with the spirits. Li Ming and the other team members fought off the spirits' attacks, protecting Xiaoling from disturbance. Xiaoling's chants grew increasingly urgent, and the flames on the altar candles flickered more violently. Finally, as Xiaoling uttered the last syllable, a strong light burst from the altar, dispersing all the spirits. Shan Fu and his family gradually became transparent, their pale expressions fading into calmness and relief. "Thank you," Shan Fu's spirit whispered softly before disappearing into the light with the other spirits. After the ritual, the night sky returned to calm, and everything in the forest seemed as if nothing had happened. Li Ming and his team were exhausted, but filled with a sense of accomplishment. They knew they had finally unraveled the mystery that had troubled the town for many years and rescued its innocent souls. Back in town, Li Ming documented everything in detail and announced the final results to the residents. The town returned to its former tranquility, and people were grateful to Li Ming and his team. Although the investigation was fraught with danger and challenges, Li Ming had no regrets. He knew that he not only uncovered a century-old mystery, but also rescued countless trapped souls, making it all worthwhile. As time passed, the story of the ghost train gradually became a legend in the town, while Li Ming's courage and wisdom were forever remembered. This experience taught him that in the face of the unknown and fear, only perseverance and courage could reveal the truth and overcome darkness. The ghost train incident came to a close, and Li Ming and his team finally rescued the trapped souls. But just when they thought everything was over, new clues emerged, revealing a deeper conspiracy behind the tragedy. One day, Li Ming received an anonymous letter detailing some details he had never heard of before. The letter ended with the truth of this tragedy goes far beyond the ghost train. To learn more, read Shan Fu's private diary, where unimaginable secrets are hidden. Li Ming decided to re-examine Shan Fu's background and the accident. He contacted Professor Zhang and Xiaoling, gathering once again to try to find more clues. Following the anonymous letters led Li Ming and the team found Shan Fu's private diary. This diary was hidden in a secret room in the mansion, accessible only through intricate mechanisms. It took them hours to unravel the mechanisms and obtain the long-forgotten diary. As Li Ming opened the diary, he was shocked by its contents. The diary detailed the reasons behind Shan Fu's pursuit of eternal life. He was not only doing it for himself, but also under the command of a secret organization. The diary mentioned a secret organization called the Eternal Light, dedicated to exploring and mastering ancient powers, pursuing immortality and power. Shan Fu was merely a pawn in their game, conducting various dangerous rituals and experiments through him. Li Ming discovered that this organization manipulated the tragedy a century ago to cover up their true intentions. The accident was not just a failed ritual, it was a deliberate experiment intended to create a power that could control spirits. Li Ming and the team continued to delve into the diary, uncovering more shocking truths. This organization not only manipulated Shan Fu 100 years ago, but also conducted similar experiments worldwide, attempting to control life and death from controlling spirits. According to the diary, members of this organization were hidden in various corners of society, even infiltrating governments and law enforcement. Their ultimate goal was to dominate the world by controlling the power of spirits. Li Ming realized that rescuing souls was just solving the surface problem. A deeper conspiracy was still ongoing. To stop this organization's plans, he decided to expose their true faces. Following clues from the diary, Li Ming found several former members who had participated in the organization's activities. After much persuasion, he convinced these people to provide evidence, which he handed over to the authorities and the media. However, as the truth gradually came to light, Li Ming and his team faced increasingly significant threats. The organization didn't want the conspiracy exposed and began sending assassins and spies to try to stop Li Ming's investigation. After a near ambush incident, Li Ming realized that he and his team's safety were severely compromised. They decided to go underground, continuing to gather more evidence while contacting international organizations, hoping for stronger support. Li Ming reached out to international organizations specializing in mysticism and anti-cult activities. They had heard of the Eternal Light Organization, but lacked concrete evidence. With the information Li Ming provided, these organizations decided to collaborate, completely destroying this dangerous secret group. In a meticulously planned operation, Li Ming and the International Cooperation Organization successfully infiltrated the core base of the Eternal Light. This base was hidden in a remote mountain range, with luxurious facilities, strict defenses. Through the cooperation of insiders, they gradually uncovered the organization's operating mode and the identities of senior members. Li Ming and his teammates risked their lives, collecting a large number of documents and evidence exposing the organization's crimes. Finally, Li Ming and his allies successfully made this evidence public, causing shockwaves globally. Law enforcement and governments began massive operations, arresting the organization's members and dismantling their bases. Li Ming and his team finally breathed a sigh of relief. They knew that although the battle was tough, the ultimate victory belonged to justice. The town also returned to its former tranquility, and the legend of the ghost train became history. In the twilight glow, Li Ming stood in front of the abandoned station, reminiscing about this thrilling experience. He knew that, although this battle had ended, there would be more challenges waiting for him in the future. Taking a deep breath, Li Ming embarked on a new journey, with firm belief and dedication to justice. He believed that as long as he held courage and wisdom in his heart, he could overcome all darkness and usher in a bright future.